item on our agenda, we just have a little presentation from the Mary Potter Hospice, who've come to express their thanks for our support with the Strawberry Festival. And before we do that, I'd just like to acknowledge the work that Mary Potter Hospice does and the huge amount of volunteer commitment that it takes to raise funds, to run the operation, and also congratulations to being finalists in the Wellington Regional Airport Community Awards this year, and also winners of the People's Choice Award for the region. So it's just been an excellent year, and I did enjoy getting dunked. I actually did enjoy it. Even though people seem to be a bit more interested in Dane Coles, but we won't worry about that. So thank you very much for coming today, and congratulations on another successful event, and we look forward to many more in the future. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your contribution.
Do you want to say anything?
I would just like to say thank you to everybody here for your continued support to Mary Potter Hospice. Without your help, we couldn't do this every year, and it is hugely appreciated. We've made some record figures this year in spite of what looked like quite uncertain times. So thanks again. Without your help, we couldn't have done it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Have a lovely day.
You too. Great. We've got a very malleable morning this morning. So we're now moving on to 10.3 performance report for the period ending 31st October 2024, and I'll pass over to Mark.
Thank you, Your Worship. Morena, everybody. So this report is on page 13 of your agenda, but the performance report is actually a separate attachment under separate cover. Unfortunately, Cheryl couldn't be with us today, so it'll just be Ian and myself presenting today with support of our group managers. What I'd like to say is definitely take the report as read, but I'd just like to make the point that we're on a bit of a journey. This is the new performance report, which is now thirdly. Staff have taken on board the feedback that we had during the long-term plan, as well as when we adopted the annual report, the Risk and Assurance Committee and Council. So we've tried our very best to incorporate the feedback that you have given us into this report, but this is the start of the journey. Very, very open to feedback and changes. There will be another thirdly performance report, and then the final performance report is in the annual report. So there's still plenty of time to incorporate any changes. It's certainly not cast in stone, but we're very pleased with what we've actually been able to create and to present to you today. Notwithstanding that you may have some more feedback for change, which we're absolutely open to. So in terms of performance, I think the report makes it very clear in terms of financials. It's only 4 months of the year, and across those 4 months, I think Council in financial terms is performing relatively well. It is making a surplus. That's mainly due to timing of revenue for our capital works program. In terms of our operating expenses, as the report says, our fixed costs are slightly higher than what we had anticipated. Nevertheless, we're actually in a position of financial strength. The capital works program, we've had a solid performance over the first 4 months. When you have a budget of 75 million, the variance is broadly in line with budget. It does indicate that we're forecasting to go over budget by $6.9 million, but as the report says, this has been monitored. This will be reevaluated as we track through the year. The levels of service performance measures, we're sitting at 94%. Unfortunately, the report does have an error. The chart only shows 29 levels of service KPIs. There's actually 32. So we missed 3, and so we still achieved 94% of our level of service performance measures that are reportable at this stage. And then, of course, our top 10 priorities, we're tracking very well at 81%. So I think that's it from me, and we're just happy to go to questions.
Any questions? Councillor Coe.
First, I want to congratulate you on an excellent report and really easy to read. So, yeah, So it's good. It's heading in the right direction. I just do have a question in terms of the activity cost per resident as to why we are calculating operating costs per resident per week. Because if you're an older person living alone in a household, I would have thought that's slightly misleading. You know, would it not be best to look at operating costs per household per week to give a better reflection of cost?
Yeah, thank you. Look, absolutely. We could change it to household. We could change it per ratepayer. If it's there's 25,500 rating units, so it could be per rating unit, can be household. I think in terms of the economic data, I think the average size per household in Kapiti is 2.2.
Yeah.
So you can change the metrics.
Yes.
This was our starter for 10. We just felt probably a fair way to start would be the number of people that are benefiting from the service. And so that's why we actually use the base as the population.
Right.
But of course we can change that.
Yeah, okay, well, it's something we can talk about offline
Yes.
perhaps, but
Yeah.
To me, there'd be more benefit, I think, in doing per household rather than per resident, because some households have, 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
But I know for single retirees, the burden is always much heavier,
Yeah.
and we need to reflect that. Yeah.
Can I comment?
Yep.
Because actually, on reflection, looking at this, I agree with you. The other thought that I've got, this is total operating costs per activity, so it includes your private portion as well.
Yeah.
And I, to me, I think it's probably the rate burden
Yes.
might be what you want to get to. So,
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So regulatory services, for example, here, that will be the gross cost of the service, but of course, a large portion of that is met by
By the applicants.
users.
Yeah.
So that that would be
Yeah, I
where
think
I'd be
you're looking at the
as well.
rates burden. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I don't know whether we look at, residential versus commercial, whether that has an impact as well. But that's something we can, I think, explore in terms of doing any future development on the report.
Absolutely.
To make it more meaningful. Thank you.
Councillor Warwick.
Mine's the same kind of thing on the chart, and just being a layperson looking at that, if that came out, I'd go, okay, my amount is $41 per person. I've got 6 people in the house. It's $240, but I'm paying $1,000 a quarter. So somewhere in that under that chart, it maybe should disclose that it's only there's rates make up extra expenses like your investment and you know what I mean. So this is kind of a little bit misleading because I'm thinking $41 a quarter per person, but my rates don't reflect that. So somewhere it would need to say that additional costs due to capital works.
It's also just an average. It's an average.
I know, but I don't know. That to me, reading that, now I can't get it to come up.
Yeah, thank you.
Just as a layperson looking at it going, but why my rates are $1,000 when you're saying $41 a month?
Yeah, so thank you. So that's a really, really good point. And I found myself actually questioning exactly the same issue. We have ratepayers that are paying $3,500–4,000 a year, and then you equate that to $41.22 a week. So the tendency would be to multiply $41 by 52 weeks and say, actually, I'm being overcharged. So there is a little star at the bottom of the table. Look, this was a starter for 10, and this is really good. But to satisfy myself, we are saying per resident per week. So if you have 6 people in your household, you would multiply 41 by 6 times it by 52, and you would get quite close to what your annual rates bill is. But again, that's me looking at it, knowing what the team are doing. So I think what we've heard from Ian and myself, that what this table should really be trying to convey is what is the cost per ratepayer. And so we can make that change. We are assuming that everyone will read that tiny little star at the bottom and multiply out. So So it's really good feedback. So thank you. But I did find myself challenging exactly the same thing.
Councillor Halliday.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Just 3 questions from my end. But following up on what Liz was saying, thoroughly enjoyed reading this report. You know, I mentioned this to you last week. As a way for our community to see what's going on in council, I'm quite comfortable pointing them in this direction with regards to getting an understanding and thinking, well, that's digestible. I could answer the questions potentially that members of the community could have around this sort of thing, you know, which is a good barometer with regards to people being able to understand it. If I can understand it, everyone else should be able to. Or if I can answer the questions, then we're informed enough also in that space as well. But the 3 questions I had, one of them is pretty much was self-answering. The first one in regards to the appendices on page 37 is performance level at 0%. Now, I'm picking that's due to the fact that, and it was for, what was it, sustainability and resilience, and it's got performance level. I'm assuming that's because all the targets are annual reporting.
Page 37, isn't it?
Yeah, of the appendices.
Thank you. So
it's got how we performed, 0%.
yeah. So what it's saying is, it's page 37 of the appendix. So 0% achieved year to date. So if you look down at the levels of service, it's got 4 performance measures which are annual.
Yep.
And there's 1 that's been missed. So this activity has got 1 reportable KPI for this report, and it was missed. So 0% has been achieved year to date.
Right, okay. I do wonder, and again, if you're just using stuff around, there might be ways that we can bring some reporting back to this that can be measured. Don't know what that might be, because with regards to performance measures, you know, people generally see as 0%. I thought it might have been an error to start with, but that's what they'll focus on with regards to things as well. Fully understanding that they're annual reporting, which I could answer that question. But it's just there might be ways that we can report slightly differently, or what our KPIs are, showing some, should we say, progress through the year in regards to some of this. But just putting that out there as something for consideration.
Yeah. So just in response to that, so if I think a couple of years back, we made the conscious decision. A performance measure is either been met or it hasn't.
Yep.
You know, if you say just missed or almost met, it hasn't been met. So
yep.
we have taken the very hard line that, you know, we have a performance framework. We developed that as part of the long-term plan, and it's met or it's not. And
okay.
we have to be brutal about that. The performance framework is with us for the next 3 years. It's part of the 24-34 long-term plan. But if there's a sense that some of the measures that we are deeming to be annual, and you want to question that, by all means. But we have these performance measures because it's part of the long-term plan. That's the performance framework that we have for 3 years. So we can certainly take offline maybe how we present that in the next 30 performance report, but the measures themselves cannot be changed, because then we start to get into the realms of amendments to LTP.
Oh, I appreciate the answer. Absolutely fine with that. No issue at all. Thanks for the clarity. Page 88 of the appendices. Capital project spending and other ones there. Each one of these has a heading other CapEx, and the other CapEx is quite substantial figures. So there's obviously ambiguity there with regards to what the spend was. We've done some. Is that something that's going to progressively develop as such, or because there's the other CapEx figure is quite substantial in regards to the measures on the recreation and leisure, 657,000 is other CapEx.
Yeah, so look, I'm sure Ian will correct me. Generally what we've tried to do with this table, so the very short answer is this section of the report, capital projects will evolve over time.
That's cool.
there is an internal oversight group that monitors and evaluates the capital works program, and council has approved. So we have $75 million year on year for the first 3 years of the long-term plan. $100 million was taken out of the capital works program on the agreement that officers manage the total capex budget for the 3 years. must be managed over the 3 years, but you can move budget forward. We can move budgets between projects.
Yep,
So
no, all good with that.
this section will evolve to show you what budgets are moving and why, more forecasts. So
Okay.
certainly the next performance report will have more detail. In terms of the tables, you've questioned other capex. So look, for the most part, what we've tried to do is any projects that are under 500,000 are just aggregated to other. Anything that's over 500 is specifically shown within each activity. We've always used 500,000. We could lower that threshold, but generally, the way we've presented it in this table is other, is a number of projects. Each individual project is less than $500,000.
Cool. Well, again, we'll see how the document looks at the end, and the annual report as well, because I'm sure this will evolve a little bit around that as well. Just one other question. On page 94, sorry. There's the net cash flows from operating activities. Cash was applied to. It's 1, 2, 3 in the fourth bracket down. Purchase of investments at 22 odd million. I was just curious to know what we've got. Cuts going to purchase of property, plant and equipment, and intangibles. But when you purchase of investments, what's classified as a purchase of investment? As such, as that? Yeah, I'm just curious.
I was just checking with Ian. So that's our long-term pre-funding. So the investment is putting it on term deposit.
No, that's absolutely fine. No, that clarifies it. Thank you. That's me.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. It's a very good report. The in terms of statutory requirements, I think I raised this that I'd like to see less of these rather than more, but there's a minimum, right? So what is the minimum number of times that this has to be reported? So this is a thirdly, as opposed to what was previously a quarterly, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you have a halfly?
So the minimum requirement is the annual report only.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do this, and we've transitioned from quarterly to half yearly to now thirdly. So thirdly helps. It helps us report to you how we're performing. So there's a no surprises approach. It also helps us start to compile and collate the annual report during the year. So it's not such a big work effort on staff at the end of the year, so that we can simultaneously do an annual report, do an annual plan, etc., etc.
Okay. Yeah, I was just looking at it from that point of view about, sometimes reports are work creators, really, rather than necessary things, and obviously costly in terms of time and all this. But this looks fantastic. Just wondered, on page 65, the reference to oh shit, so sorry. Sorry, page 65. So it talks about the requirement for a poll. Not splitting hairs here, but is there a difference? And Steffi might have the response to this, but a poll as opposed to a referendum. So we're required to have a referendum as opposed to a poll, which seems like something that we might be thinking, oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, thank you. So happy to be corrected by Steffi, but a referendum and a poll are one and the same thing. So we could have easily just replaced the word poll with referendum.
I mean, I know they are the same thing, effectively, but just one is a government mandated referendum. That's the language that's being socialised, and that's the personally, I'm most comfortable with that because it's not something that we have chosen to do, and so we should really be using the language that has been dictated to us to use. The other one I've had here is that on page 64, it was around the official information requests, and that there'd been 336 information requests in this period, which if we extrapolate that out takes us to about 1,008 for a year. Does that seem like an extraordinarily high number, or was this just a particularly hectic period, or have we got just litigious people out there?
Thank you. So, all of the above.
All of the above.
Yeah. Look, there has definitely been an increase in the number of information requests. The team's certainly been busy. All of us are busy. It does. So it's a slight uptick in the volume, but year on year, we normally get in excess of 1,000 requests.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the reason I raise that is not to, it's fantastic that it's presented in the report and people can see it's really transparent. Just wonder about if there's been any sort of comparative analysis between ourselves and similar councils of a similar size, and about that information request. There was an example in the past where there were an extraordinary number of OIAs, and that was purely and simply because if a person asked what day it was, they got treated as an OIA, and that's why those numbers just became over the top. And I just wondered about that. So is this a reflection of difficulty getting information from council, or is this just as it normally is? So I guess it's kind of about the nature of the OIAs. But that might be another day, another conversation for another day. But it's kind of an out-facing look about how we're perceived in terms of the free flow of information.
Look, what I will say is it largely depends on the activities of council at the time. Some activities generate more information requests than others. Some official information requests are asking for 500 pages of information, emails, records. Some are asking for information that dates back 7 years. Some are asking just a very targeted, simple request that takes 10 minutes to process. So it does vary. We haven't felt the need to benchmark our information requests and the nature of our requests against our neighbouring councils. The Ombudsman has recently released a report just noting that there's been an uptake in the number of complaints or referrals of OIRs to the Ombudsman, and just recognising that the local government sector as a whole is experiencing a huge uplift in official information requests. In the past, when we were we do have our serial requesters, and in the past we did actually table that information with our at the time it was an audit and risk committee, just raising the risk that there may not be sufficient resources to answer all of the official information requests. So the answer to your question is we have not benchmarked, but there is a report from the Ombudsman, because every time we issue a response to an official information request, we do invite the requester to refer the matter to the Ombudsman, which is what we're required to do.
Yeah.
So there has been an increase in that, but across the sector, not just not for KCDC. So, but no, we haven't benchmarked ourselves against other councils.
Okay. And my final question is just more of a general thing too, is about are you comfortable that the numbers reflect the residents? So the focus is on ratepayers and rating units, etc. But as we know, probably half our population aren't direct ratepayers. They're still ratepayers because it'll be in their rent for sure, but they are renters. And so they're not seen as ratepayers. And I'm just wondering, is that really substantial population, which we know is growing, actually. Renters are going to be a clear majority in the not too distant future if they're not already. So are they, as the residents, are you comfortable that they get reflected in these numbers? And if that's too big, and it's a big question, so if it's too big, I'm happy to have a chat later.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Look, happy to take it offline. Look, we don't differentiate. We don't determine the demographic of the requester. You know, under legislation,
No, sorry,
whoever
this
requests
wasn't in.
information, we do.
No,
have
no,
to
this
just
wasn't
provide
in
a response.
relation. Sorry, this wasn't in relation to OIAs. This was just into the report in general.
Oh,
Just the stats and the numbers and etc. And so the OIA. Sorry, that conversation was
sorry,
finished.
my apologies.
Yeah, no, it's just about because the discussions with these things very often are about rating units and ratepayers, etc. And my point was that half our population or more are not direct ratepayers; they're residents, and so are they reflected in these numbers? But again, that's a big question, and I'm comfortable if it's.
Yeah, Pat. Look, what I am comfortable with is that our performance report is reflecting how we are tracking against the long-term plan.
Yeah.
And that's what it should do.
Yeah. No, it's cool. Thank you.
Councillor Coфord.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Madam Chair. Mark, thanks a lot. Thanks for your patience too over the year. We had a workshop on the long-term plan and the rates and that, and yeah. Hello, I just had a query about. There was a big concern about the funding depreciation with quite a lot of loan, and that was addressed with the increase in the rates. How's that going? Have we addressed that okay? I think it was the depreciation for the capex over the years, which had sort of built up.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. So if I understand your question, you're asking about our depreciation funding. So for the current financial year, for 24-25, we're not fully funding our depreciation. So the 70% rates increase was not closing the gap. So we are still not fully funding depreciation, which means we're actually taking on debt. The financial strategy does have us fully funding depreciation in year 2, which will be part of the annual plan for 25-26. And so the financial strategy has planned for us to close that $3.5 million gap. But this year it was too far of a reach for us to do.
Okay. Thanks. Just have to be patient. Thank you.
Councillor Pravanov.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the Official Information Act requests. So, as noted in the report, there are 336 that have been processed. On the website, there's actually only about a third of them, and the last one I think was uploaded at the end of, the last one was dated at the end of October. Are there any requirements to, in a time frame, to actually upload them and to upload all of them? What is the criteria around that? Because I suppose what I'm asking this is so that people can see what is being requested, so that potentially they don't go out and do it themselves, but also to see that we are working in this area quite hard.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, look, there is a criteria. Generally, once the official information request has been sent to the requester, subject to criteria being met, it'll be uploaded to the website. So, depending on the nature of the request and privacy, the criteria is around privacy reasons. So, in terms of what we do tend to do is once we've had the request, we always acknowledge that we've received the request, it's been treated as an official information request, and we will be providing response shortly. We also notify the requester that this will be made publicly available on our website. So it goes through checks and balances. It really depends on the nature of the request. If it's sensitive, we won't put it on the website. It goes through our legal team. So the fact that you don't see a direct correlation is because there will be some information requests that are sensitive that have been deemed not permissible to put on our website. Yes, the intention is that people will go onto the website and have a look at what's been requested before they put in an information request. We aren't seeing that happen. We are still being asked for information that we are consistently providing.
Thank you for that. So I'm aware that obviously names will be redacted when it gets put onto the website. Is there a policy that actually determines what is classed as sensitive and what is not, or
Yes.
that criteria?
Yes, we do. Look, we do have a policy. I just need to, I possibly may need to correct myself. We do have a policy around what if official information requests go onto our website. That may only pertain to the pre-election period. But as far as I'm aware, there is a policy which governs the criteria for when we can make official information requests publicly available all year round.
Okay, thank you. Just one further question. Is there a legal requirement in terms of time frame that they must be uploaded to the KCDC website or not?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Coe?
I'd just like to move the recommendations on page 13 that we received the report and note Council's financial and non-financial performance for the 4 months ended 31 October.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Halliday, right of introduction.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I just want to commend the staff for taking on board feedback. This is really, really important. I know we have statutory obligations around our reporting, but I think, the key thing here is how we can transmit information on our financial performance to the community in a way that they can comprehend and understand and give us feedback on, what we're doing well and what we're not doing so well, and what their priorities are, any areas for improvement. So this is a journey, and we've got more work to do in this space, which I think is going to see even more improvement. So I just want to say thanks for all the work you've done to date in this, and that we are really trying hard to better inform our community so that they can, because I think, when people don't understand things or don't have enough information, that creates a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear, a lot of mistrust. And so I think by, through better information, we can actually, we can fix that so that people do have a really clear understanding of where their rates money goes, and what are the opportunities for us to improve our performance, and to better serve our community. So, yep, thank you very much. I'm very happy to move this, and look forward to further improvements in our reporting. So, thanks a lot.
Okay. I'm not seeing any further desire for contribution to debate, so I'll put that to the room. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried. Congratulations. Thank you. Well done. Really good report. Okay. Okay. So we move on to confirmation of minutes on page 15.
Oh, yeah, that's the one. That's the one I have an issue with. Apparently I have an issue with this one. What page are we on?
15.
Yes.
I'll just give Councillor Wilson a minute to find his issue.
Barrister, on my behalf, raised the point that apparently I was, is this the one that I was in and out of the meeting apparently? No. Yep, okay, so to page, where it says I was absent from the meeting during am I not right?
Page 20.
Sorry, page 20. Okay. So it says, on page 20, it says, Councillor Wilson left the meeting during the adjournment and returned to the meeting at 1:31. So I'm not sure that, so in the, for the procedural motion, It says that Councillor Wilson was absent from the meeting at the time of the procedural motion. But Councillor Wilson was actually rapping at the door, but you wouldn't let him in a metaphorically speaking. So I was trying to access the meeting through Zoom, which I had been part of. So that kind of says that I'm absent from the meeting, but that doesn't reflect that I was desperately trying to be part of the meeting, but was being shut out by technology.
Is there anything wrong with adding just due to technical issues with online attendance or something like that? Yep.
Yeah,
Because otherwise it looks like you might have been purposefully not there or something.
Well, that's right, and I wouldn't like that to reflect on the chair, that you shall not pass, Wilson.
So we're adding to under Lost 5.5 in the box on page 20. It now will read, Councillor Wilson was absent from the meeting at the time of this procedural motion due to technical issues with online attendance.
Yes.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Great.
And then people now just think I'm a complete Luddite, he doesn't know how to operate a computer, but that's okay. There's a degree of truth in that. I'm prepared to accept that.
I
Yeah.
think that's preferable to assuming nefarious intentions.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Is that all right?
Yeah, yeah,
Councillor
it's cool.
Wilson?
Yep.
Councillor Pravanov?
You need to turn yours on. Oh, no. Yeah, so I suppose, following on that point, so it says, and I assume that these minutes are in chronological order. So it says that he joins the meeting, then you have the procedural motion which says he's absent. So that doesn't make sense. So it's a case of where he either didn't join the meeting before that procedural meeting, or he did. Yeah.
I think it just always, the minutes always just say okay.
We can move that. It's unfortunately just the way the software works automatically, because that's a resolution box. It's put the absences outside of it, but we can manually fix that if it makes it clearer. That is no trouble.
I don't think it's necessary. Okay. I understand what you mean, Councillor Pravanov, but it always says, what I was going to say is that there's always a sentence that just says when the person left and when they returned. And sometimes the stuff underneath happens during that time, but the requirement is that you know when the person left and when they returned. And I wouldn't like to set a precedent where you split that up and then had to put in a different place when they returned, which would be the only solution to the problem that you're identifying. You'll make it a bit complicated. Yeah, but it does look a bit weird. Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, well, I mean, the time-travelling exploits of Councillor Cooper are reflected well, where he left the meeting at 1:54 and rejoined the meeting at 1:54 via Zoom. Yeah, so that was cool.
He's quick on his feet,
He's
that
very,
Councillor Cooper.
yeah, very swift.
Okay, do I have a mover for these minutes?
Yes.
Moved by Councillor Wilson. Seconded by Councillor Hanford. Any further comments? All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried. Okay. Now, I think we're moving into public excluded, aren't we? Can I have a mover that we move into public excluded? Moved by Councillor Coe, seconded by Councillor Wilson. No. Seconded by Councillor Spires. So that's moved by Councillor Coe, seconded by Councillor Spires. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried.